Құрметті қонақтар,
Dear guests, we would like to welcome all of you to Astana Finance Days 2023. And we're very happy that you have made it here today. And we are going to be commencing our panel discussion. So this discussion is going to be devoted to fostering digital assets ecosystem for Central Asia. We have
let
four
me
speakers.
introduce our panelists of the panel session, which is related and dedicated to the development of digital assets within Kazakhstan or within the region. And so we have the experts from Japan. So Mr. Takeshi Kito, he's the vice chair of FinTech Association of Japan. And we have Itu Kunainen, so he's the advisor to the chairman of the FinTech Association of Thailand. Разрешите представить Ермека.
Allow me please to introduce Mr. Rustenbek Ule, who is the founder of Digital Law Association. So Yermek is well known abroad, and he's leading the international projects. We also have Andrei Chebotaryov, who represents the voice of the people, and we would like to listen to what's going on in terms of the marketplace, and he is the editor-in-chief, Finance KZ. And we also have the founder and general director of fintech company, Seok Pay, Agani Uzbekov, as well as the representative of the financial industry, Isin Gildi. He represents Skype Reach Invest. He is the managing director of that company.
Today we're going to talk about digital assets. So basically today in the morning we had results of the crypto fiat pilot regime, which is conducted by the governmental services, by the EFC, and by the participants of the market, basically second-tier banks and crypto exchanges. But today we want to talk about the more visionary thing about the tokenization, how offline to online story could be implemented and deployed within our financial ecosystem. So basically, I would like to ask first Mr. Takeshi. So we know that Japanese crypto and digital asset ecosystem is well developed, and you're in advanced level. So, and we know that from 2017 you first introduced the regulation of the crypto assets regulation, and what's happening in Japan regarding the digital assets, and can you tell more about the tokenization, how like crypto investors can go into the real sector economy?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, generally speaking, Japan is a civil law-based country, and also including Japanese public's mindset or financial institutions' mindset. Regulation comes first, and then financial institutions and startups follows. So, as introduced, Japanese regulator introduced regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies in 2017. And at the moment, the cryptocurrency and crypto assets classified as a payment method. And then 3 years later, in 2020, the regulator introduced a security token framework. So that enables issuers who want to raise the money by using cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, so from the public market. And then there are some unclear points in the stable coins. So last year, the regulator announced and introduced a stablecoin regulation, and this year that was enforced. So this is a development of crypto asset regulation in Japan. And actually, after this kind of cryptocurrency regulation introduced, more than 30 crypto exchanges are registered in Japan. And after security token regulation introduced in Japan, we had more than 20 cases, security token offering cases we observed. And mainly real estate backed token. Yeah. And we so our market, our issuers in Japan raises more than 300 million equities from the market by using security token. But actually, it's not, I think, still struggling with penetrating the market because so we already have a security token regulatory framework, but it's basically for primary market. And because Japanese security token is a classified type 1 security token. Type 1 security token, type 1 security means financial instruments that have a quite high liquidity. So this is the reason why this security token regulation is a quite strict regulation. And if we want to provide liquidity, or if we facilitate the secondary transactions, we have to have a security exchange license or PTS license. So it's really tough to get this kind of license for both for financial institutions and fintech startups. So we need more development in terms of penetration or adoption of a security token in Japan. This is the situation in Japan.
Yeah, so you're saying about the mostly primary market is kind of regulated for the securitization, and how about the secondary market? And another question is how the investors are perceiving all that regulation what's happening within Japan. So how they do they have a kind of access, direct access to buying or selling that securities within that security exchanges?
Yeah. So in Japan, as I mentioned, we have roughly 30 crypto exchanges, and more than 6 million population in Japan already have a crypto asset, crypto account. So it's roughly 5% of our population. So it's a current penetration ratio in Japan in terms of crypto assets. But yeah, as I mentioned, there's no secondary market for security tokens in Japan. So we have no secondary transaction yet in Japan, only primary market transaction.
Yeah, so as we can understood that the basis, the fundamentals for the development of the digital assets is kind of ready. So let's learn about the Thailand experience. Can you share your thoughts about the regulation, or maybe you can share some kind of cases, what's happening within the Thailand ecosystem, or maybe the ASEAN countries?
Certainly. So Thailand is very strong on Web3, and Web3 obviously is driving everything towards tokenization. So now there's been a lot of talks on tokenizing asset-backed tokens. So basically, there are interesting projects. There's a project which is done by Siam Commercial Bank, one of the largest local banks, and they run a tokenization hub called Token X, where you can go and issue a token. So this is a good example of a larger initiative, which is kind of they're like official ones. Then there's a lot of unofficial ones boiling under the surface. But the idea is that I think Thailand is getting ready to regulate the asset-backed token market in a completely different manner. Malaysia is already kind of doing similar things, but it's very interesting to see that countries in Southeast Asia are really driving this sector. And when we come here and we ask the same questions here, like could we get licensing for similar activities, we're still waiting. We're still waiting.
Yeah, so as we know that the so-called Thailand exchange allows to list the security tokens, right?
Correct. Well, it's under SET, so the Stock Exchange of Thailand has issued a digital asset exchange called TDX, in which you can then float these tokens.
And how this case is kind of becoming popular, or
It's getting more and more popular, obviously not in terms of the eyes of the public. The public is still not really into this. But the space of, if you go to any Web3 event, actually there's pretty much every week there's a Web3 event in Bangkok. And I see international people flying into these events. So it's really booming in Thailand at the moment in terms of this.
Yeah, actually we can develop the the digital assets ecosystem or Web3 ecosystem with only the events. So we can say that in Thailand there is a regulatory framework which is basically provides and allows to companies to list their tokens.
Yeah.
And there is like customers who can buy. And you're saying that it's not popular, so why? Is there any kind of like a blockers over
It's
there?
getting more and more popular. Obviously, everybody in the country knows crypto. BitCup was valued, well, they didn't close the deal, but they were valued $1 billion. So they were the first, I would say, maybe, Thai company spinning out of Web3 reaching a unicorn status at that time. So that was supposed to be a big deal. So obviously that made the public aware of Web3 space, crypto space. And Thailand, actually, a lot of people retail investors are flocking into crypto at the moment. But as we talk about, like, if we can start to invest into real assets using tokenization, so we can then take, I can invest 1% of a shopping mall. That would be interesting, and obviously leading into financial inclusion, improving all those things in the country, which would be good. But I think that this is just getting started. So I'm actually advising one of these projects on real asset-backed token, which is a property project at the moment. So I think it will be very interesting to see if the public will view crypto assets instead of crypto being the investment, but actually crypto being the means of buying another asset.
Yeah, so basically we need to understand that there is a difference between the just tokens. There's like several types of tokens, and there's like crypto. It's also, so we can say that's a different part of the world. Okay, thank you very much, Itu. So, наверное.
So perhaps it's a high time for us to start discussing other issues. So in terms of the international regulatory regimes, and it depends on the jurisdiction. Everyone gets focused on developing the digital assets, and we've talked a lot. However, not much has been done. So Japan and Thailand, the references to what's been said just now. So Yuriki, the question is to you, as to the lawyer. Would you tell us, is it possible in Kazakhstan to proceed with tokenization, and what needs to be done? What approach do we have to use, and what does the regulator have to do, both AIFC, the National Bank, the regulator, and all of the other authorities interested? So what needs to be done? Perhaps we're lacking something, or we have it all, however there is some block. Good afternoon. Thank you for your question. Well, indeed, the question is extraordinary to a certain extent, because the tokenization is something that, as far as I'm concerned, we started those discussions 8 years ago once we launched Ethereum back in 2015, and I don't know many successful projects that were eventually completed. Fax Gold, for instance, could be named, and perhaps a couple of tokens that have some exchange commodities, right? So in fact, that is all. So therefore, I'm very interested in the Japanese and Thai experience. So the major reason is a lack of sound regulation and legal framework. And this is explained by the fact that different countries have different approaches. And there's a whole scale of feelings from a complete negligence to a total admiration. So what could we do? We would recommend to follow the trend, which is taking into account a high demand coming from the market, and to diversify the financial flows, to diversify financial tools. Those are the things that everybody likes. However, based on our experience under the AIFC jurisdictions, we have to study the practice that exists in the world. We have some countries as Germany, Singapore, and Germany. In U.S., unfortunately, they've made a U-turn. However, the Congress is about to consider very rigorous law. However, we have to be very attentive and be very delicate, starting from the basic things like terms, for instance. If there is a category of skepticism, why do we need to tokenize a share in some business or in immovable property foundations if it doesn't get circulated within DeFi? And from a positive standpoint, we could, as far as I'm concerned, by 2022, the global immovable property market was estimated by the experts in the amount of $328 trillion. And should we tokenize couple of billions US dollars, the global market is not going to be able to feel it. So we have to be more courageous in terms of taking the positions, and we have to be offensive, and at the same time pretty thoughtful. We gotta pay our attention to legal collisions, to not having legal collisions. Unfortunately, we made that mistake. And as a reference, for instance, we have a term of digital token. The digital token, so logically speaking, is there any non-digital token? Or we have this supported asset, which is token, and non-supported token asset, which is again a token. So we have to categorize the payment tokens. Cryptocurrency is one thing, a stablecoin is the other thing. So if we put together all of these nuances and have all of these nuances taken into account by the regulator, then we will have a chance to have a very thoughtful approach, and without having a glance to the global practice, to find our own path forward. For instance, just lately, the European Union adopted the document that has created the unified zone of regulation, and they have determination of security tokens and others. So we have references to have this market regulated, and we are not the most courageous or the smartest, but we have to be more active. Yes, I do support you. And again, to protect AIFC, back in 2017, we had the legal framework on cryptocurrency ready, and we named it the private electronic currency. There was a lot of hype around crypto, ICO, fraudulent operations, so we decided to wait. And as of now, any activities is possible within the very small scope. And what you propose us is to start from scratch, to complete the basic platform, and there has to be common logics of how to proceed further. So to start with simple things and come to more comprehensive pictures. So we have to start with defining the basic terms, take into account the global practice, implement, and despite the scope, we just have to go ahead and get started. Otherwise, it might take a long time. There's no other way to find out whether the water is warm or cold. You have to stick your feet in. So, you may take years discussing. So if something is going wrong, then yes, indeed, if the pilot turns out to be not successful, then that's fine. We can start something over. You mentioned about the categories, and I would totally agree with you.
And that is why I would like to ask Gaini. Gaini is a founder and CEO. They are dealing with the virtual cards, and he will share his experience, how it happens, and why, for example, your users do not feel that you have a specific model of tokenization. So tokenization in crypto world is a different thing. In the fiat world, it's something different when you exchange your data. And I would like to say that the improvement of the legislation in crypto without this improvement in the financial world, in the AFC, for example, it will be very hard to move forward. I think that, first of all, we need to have a simple legislation. We need to improve, first of all, our financial legislation first, and then look at crypto. And I can recommend AFC and register these companies, let them operate. AFC, for example, may not allow probably to work as a resident of Kazakhstan. And while we improve our legislation, I think we need to look at it carefully. We have Veritas company. It's one of the leading partners in Coinbase, for example. And what do? We allow crypto holders to convert crypto assets into fiat money. For example, you want to buy a cup of coffee, you have only your mobile phone, you do not have any cards, you have only Bitcoin, so you can buy this cup of coffee. And a person doesn't even understand what happens, but it's a deep integration where crypto company and crypto wallet can take this crypto assets and after that we can use it as money, and then you just use ordinary money. And you can imagine that it's just a special wallet, and you can issue your card very fast in fiat world. You can add it into Apple Pay or Google Pay, and we can make any Google or Android device into wallet. It's like it's not proxy transfer. It can happen just in 1 second, and every person can use it. Card B, it's our partner's card, which will be ready in 1 month in Coinbase system, for example. If I understand your question correctly, if we are talking about tokens in the fiat world is different. Okay, I just said that we needed categorization. So we need to have definitions. We need to differentiate what kind of tokens exist and how we can use them. For example, you work not only in Kazakhstan. How are approaches and regulations different in different countries? Because they apply similar technologies. Okay, so here in AIFC, there is the most difficult legislation. And what happens in AFC, it's not stable legislation. When we started our path 3 years ago, we could target our Kazakhstani citizens, and after that, a moratorium appeared. For example, you can target the world, but at the same time, if tomorrow you will have a lot of citizens from India, after some time, probably you will have some issues. And you can thank AFC because we can cooperate with international pay systems, but it's not so mature, and you need to solve it somehow. We need to complete it. AFC is a good instrument, but from a technological infrastructure point of view, and I can talk about it a lot, it's not clear what will be next in this regard. Yes, we say that we are AFC, and we have at the same time DFC, where you can target all citizens online, and that's it. The license of AFC do not allow target your Kazakhstani citizens. But still, we work, and we're so thankful that traditional legislation of Kazakhstan is lobbied towards banks and any fintech which wants to operate in the Kazakhstan without decision makers. They cannot do anything. So in our case, it can, for example, validation here in Kazakhstan can validate for a few years. And yes, startup culture exists. It seems very good. I'm not talking about other industries, but in Kazakhstan, for Kazakhstani startups, it's very hard if you do not have any connections with the bank. But AFC can assist here. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, AFC assists or helps. I told it in the end. Yes, we have some problems, and we need to disclose these problems and to speak about it. Otherwise, we will not be developing, and that is why we want to disclose these problems. We want to discuss them and to give some recommendations. Gani, so here we have some harmonizations. We have some agreements with the regulator of AFC and the National Bank, for example. We have some problems from our side and from Kazakhstani side, the National Bank, I mean. So what do we need to do next? Do you have any recommendations? Probably you have specific problems that we need to solve, or how we can start. Okay, so look at it. Based on my experience, the most important moment that we have today is traditional legislation in Kazakhstan. For example, if we work in a pay industry, I'm not talking about loans. So first of all, we need to go to the bank. It would be great to have own consolidated account in AFC where all startups could test it. I'm not asking about something extraordinary. In the UK, such companies like we can generate IBANs. So we can generate virtual IBANs. It means that you can work with both physical and legal bodies. You can launch credit and debit cards and exist in the world. Why we do not do it? When we talk to the traditional regulator, they say, the system operates, we do not want to enter into it. And it's a classical system, it's a dilemma. When innovations do not go from the bottom to up. And probably there should be an order from the administration of president, and we will develop. The administration of the president probably have different tasks. It's very hard to develop it further. So what can we do? If we take and if fintech loses less time, it would be great. We have a lot of talented people, but we need to give them opportunities. When people, for example, waste just time in order to assure the banks, and if we get rid of it, probably we will generate more products. Unfortunately, there is a lack of transparency from AFC or the political governance, but there should be a clearance or transparency. And it's very hard to get money in Kazakhstani company. We have registered our office in Abu Dhabi, global market, and they have their own nuances. And because Kazakhstan has got a narrow market, plus the legislation is so tough, we will not have such big companies or unicorns if we do not improve our legislation. Okay, thank you very much. Our colleagues say that we need to focus our attention on the regulation. Let us look at it from a different angle. Gelde, I would like to ask you from investors' point of view, because you have huge experience in working with investors. How did you talk to them? Are they ready to invest into tokens or in some digital real assets? So what do investors think about it? Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Like you have mentioned before, in the world, we have crypto and we have different types of tokens, and we usually have requests when our investors want to diversify their portfolio. And as a rule, they think about cryptocurrency. Yes, we develop ourselves in this direction. We want to integrate it in different stock exchanges, but we have a lot of niches like bonds, new paradigms of financial sector, crypto, and we want to move in this direction. And Kazakhstan develops digital tenge, and they develop open banking API, which in theory should simplify the work in second-tier banks. In theory, it's been developed. In the future, it will be adopted, and we, as brokers, as investors bank, created a division which will be focusing on tokenization or crypto assets. We will focus on new technologies and use a blockchain as infrastructure. 100 years ago, Wall Street developed very well, but after internet appeared, no one thought that 1,000 transactions per minute will be developed, and it means that in some time we will never know what will happen with crypto, for example, and the whole financial sector of the region or the whole world can evolve into the site where tokenization of securities or derivatives or tokenization of commodities, they will replace ordinary securities which exist today. Smart contracts which can be written down will give the opportunity to have transactions 24 hours per day, 365, and it will eliminate layers, and there will be direct transactions, and it's very important to move in this direction, and it's very important to focus our attention on it. And AFC, from my point of view, is very active in this direction. The same about that we have crypto, but we have tokenization of securities, tokenization of the ownership right, and it's one of the ways of the use of the whole technologies of blockchain by people. You can use it in medicine or in supply chain. Yes, thank you very much. In principle, the application of tokens, for example, technologies of blockchain, is wide. You can apply it everywhere. You need to understand why. And I asked what investors think about it. Are they ready to invest via tokens in real sectors of economy? Yes. Our investors think that it's very interesting. We have a whole division which works with tokens, and we think that it's a perspective, and when it's comfortable for the clients, it will be in demand because people will be able to have soft costs. For example, you have tokens which they share in the company instead of keeping it in a specific layer where you are a client. You can keep it in your safe, for example. Okay, it's a mechanism. Let us come back to the visionary because we need to work hard. I mean, for us and other regulatory state bodies, and we need to work with our labor and the markets. Yermiak, what do you think? You say Gani has said that innovations should go from the top to the bottom. And you say, I mean, in the context of AFC, please do not confuse. Okay. Approaches. I mean, from regulatory basis point of view. And what do you think? Can we approach from the following point? Let us launch a pilot without regulations, without regulatory base. Can we just give this right to make a mistake? Let us try this or that. Or probably in some cases we can give freedom and so on. Okay, thank you very much for your question. I would like to support what Gani has said. First of all, I would like to say when we came here, we didn't know what to speak about. If you do not know what to speak about, just, say that the president is so great. What kind of president? The second president, okay? I just want to say that and to thank the second president because Gani has said that probably I can say that if there wasn't any orders of the current president of the country, and I understand that there is a specific lobby, would we have a pilot project that we are discussing right now? It's a huge issue. That is why here I share this skepsis from Gaini. And as for your question, I cannot agree because you propose to issue. Let us imagine that there are some traffic rules, and if we drive how we want, we understand that it may lead to some problems. But you suggest to have a fence around a specific space, but it will not work. So this is what we are talking about, tokens or cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a token, but you know that not all tokens are cryptocurrency. And at the level of the legislative definition, you were talking about security tokens in the project of ENG, securitization of securities, and there are some issues and problems, and we have a lot of questions, technical questions, or the scaling up of the system, smart contracts work. So we need to work hard in these directions, but after some time, if we have a good legal basis, only after that we can say that please do not be afraid of tokens. It's not just a cryptocurrency. It's just the best way to exchange information. Do you remember that, for example, during ancient time, you had special documents for ownership of something, and after that we went to accounting books, and after that we had, for example, Roman tables or something, and in 20th century after that we went to our registers of securities or depositories. But now we need to move to the most perfect way, demonetized or decentralized registers, in order to get rid of bureaucracy and so on. And if we do not understand what kind of tokens in the project, in different projects, tokens can be different, they can be millions. And if we do not differentiate them and have minimum rules, and just to say, let us launch the sandbox, and after that, let everyone use their own legislative basis. So I agree. Okay, we develop different sandbox because you can have huge potential, but you need to have good directions. Then you will have different projects. We have capital, we have synergy of business. So we want our regulators be active in the discussion of these issues with the participation of those who develop projects from business, market, and so on, technical specialists, and so on, and it will succeed. So when we develop any ecosystem, we need to approach it from different angles at the same time. Okay, it's clear that we have specific need to collaborate it from the market. We have the demand from our investors. And Andre, I have a question to you. What do you think in the framework of your subscribers? You have open and closed channels. So what do people think about crypto? Do they differentiate that they are different things? And what do you think about it? I mean, among your subscribers regarding this topic?
Well, my subscribers are not represented by the entire population of Kazakhstan. They're not as financially educated. So, Gani, thank you so much for your feedback, and hopefully my subscribers will pay attention to what you have just shared, because it's the first time to have the deputy chairman of the agency. It has never happened before. AFC would never, attend the events arranged by the National Bank and vice versa. So hopefully this is going to be the first bridge ever built. So this is a step forward from the regulator standpoint. So hopefully for you as well. So whatever refers to the token and the rest, as it was said before by the colleague, yes, indeed, there is a huge interest to providing the ecosystem and having immovable property tokenized and other sectors of the company. Yes, indeed, the interest is high. However, we get stuck. I made surveys on who invests where, and again, speaking about the classical crypto, 15% of investors have crypto in their portfolio, and in 80% of cases, it is not more than 10% of their portfolio. So that's a norm of diversification. So crypto is comprehended as one of the, let's try it out thing. So this is an asset for speculation, to be honest with you. So it doesn't have any value. It has some, amount of, those who are ready to pay for coffee with a Bitcoin, but we're not ready to pay for coffee, $30 today, 50 tomorrow, and 5 today, because the volatility is so high, and therefore crypto may not become a classical payment asset. So none of the countries is ready to say goodbye to the monopoly of printing the money and the notes, right? Because shifting from the classical format is going to be related to some consequences. And again, that's a huge step forward, and the politicians will treat it as a lack of financial monopoly. So in terms of my own opinion, so what the blockchain has provided us, that's a good thing, yes. And do I believe in crypto? Yes, I do, but I do believe in blockchain. Why? Google did not become the first, searching platform. It was Yahoo. Facebook was not the first social network. So if there is a coin giving us something else, something as extra, or we have a country to entrust the crypto, that's going to change the entire environment. So Google became searching platform number one because they have articulated their values, And now the crypto, isn't going to be as successful because tokenization, is something that we gained. Eventually, there's hype, and again, this hype has not been transferred from the interest. So in order to have it converted into the market, we have to complete a lot of things, and the efforts have to be paid both by the regulators and by the players, so that we could demonstrate that that's just cool, and that's not scary. Yeah, certainly it has to be effective and effective for the financial industry as well.
So basically, you have maybe the bigger picture about like what's happening in Kazakhstan. So we had a lot of discussions about the financial industry and financial ecosystem within the AFC, within the Kazakhstani jurisdiction, etc. So there is a recommendation from the market participants, from the legal part, from the project part, from the investors part, and the population. So, what's your opinion? Are we going in the right way, or maybe you have some kind of a recommendation for the market, for the projects, and for the regulators, or maybe the market players? What we have to do, because you already passed it, and even there is a very low percentage of the tokenization and the tokenized projects, but still there is a huge opportunity, big projects, and overall, your recommendations and.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one recommendation from my end to both public and private sector is establishing a self-regulatory body, because I said that regulator is leading digital assets ecosystem development, but it doesn't mean only regulator is leading the ecosystem development. But so in Japan, after crypto or digital assets regulatory framework introduced, private sector established two authorized self-regulatory bodies. One is for crypto exchanges. The other is for digital assets or security token offerings and underwritings. So this kind of a public-private collaboration is quite important. And so Japanese ecosystem create a framework for this kind of public-private collaboration. And this is self-regulatory bodies. So I think this is quite important for market development.
Yeah, thank you, Takeshi-san. Давайте, наверное, позволим задать один вопрос, да, с зала.
Now let's have one question from the audience. So the mic is going to be given to the first who would raise their hand. Yeah, I don't see any hands raised. So, dear speakers, do you have any words of recommendations or wishes to be shared? So it's a high time for us to have it. We have just 1 minute left, so please. Let me use this opportunity to say that there is a great wish of AIFC to protect its regulations. The Currency Act that was signed between the regulator and the AIFC to be in benefit of AIFC. So those who have gathered here today do realize that AIFC is a chance for us to have a bright future and so on. However, we do understand that there are different people in Kazakhstan, the heads of the large bank, who think that AFC is a whole that is being used for leakage of taxes and so on. So I want you to be more offensive, to be able to protect the rights of the people who believe in you. Yes, dear speakers, thank you so much for making it. Unfortunately, we're pretty limited in terms of time.
Thank you very much for your support and for coming and giving such a speech. Thank you very much for your support. Енді құрметті қауым, тағы да айта кетерлік жайт бар, бұл біздің спонсорларымызды спонсорларымызға айтар.
I would like to thank our sponsors for their support. So once again, thank you so much for listening, for making it. Thank you.